All right. First of all, and this is one, I've got notes for this because I've got some fucking good ones, right? What are 3 of the best quotes you've ever heard that made you go, whoa? So, you know, like when you're scrolling through Instagram and you're like, or Facebook, you're like, fucking hell, that's changed my life a little bit. Is there 3 that stood out for you that you thought, oh yeah?
Not from Instagram, I don't think.
No?
I don't really do.
Or just from anywhere?
Yeah, I think. You ever seen Only Fools and Horses?
Yeah.
He who dares wins.
Oh, classic.
It's right though, isn't it? Because, you know, if you don't try, you don't know.
Exactly.
And he who dares wins, Rodney. You got to be in it to win it. So, he who dares wins, number 1. The best thing someone told me was, and it was Tony Bellew, who was cruiserweight world champion. He said to me, he who says he can and he who says he can't is usually right. And I think that's 100% true, because if you say you can do something, usually you just get up and just roll with it and you just go and do it. Where if you question it or you think, oh, I can't do that, you're never going to do it, because you've got to have the confidence to go and achieve what you want. So I think that was a good one. But you want 3, so that's 2.
If you've got 3.
Brendan Ingle once said to me, be careful how you treat people on your way up, because you'll meet them on your way down. And I think that's right. I just think, you know, you should be nice to people all the time and treat people how you want to be treated. And, you know, no matter if you're super world champion and, you know, got millions in the bank and, you know, you're doing big numbers on pay-per-view, it's not hard to be nice to people.
Yeah, that's right. I think, like, as well, in the industry that you're in, I think when you look at all of these world champions and people that have been there and done it, there's always a common theme. There's never anything different that how they work, what their ethic is like, what their mentality is like. It's nothing different. I watch a lot of like behind the scenes stuff of like UFC fighters and stuff and like boxers. And I think if you look at it and you want to know like what different thing have they got that somebody who isn't a world champion's got, or whatever champion is, they're all say the same thing. And you're like, well, surely there's a common theme here then. Surely everybody does actually think the same stuff. It's simple, isn't it? It's not complicated.
It's not a big recipe, is it? It's just the recipe for success is consistency and hard work over time. Yeah. And there's going to be failures along the way, but it's the consistency along with the failures of all the hard work that gets you to where you want to be, and that's how it is. You know, there's so many people that have achieved stuff, but it's never on their first go.
Yeah, that's right. Trial and error. That's good. 3 good quotes there.
You're welcome.
Tattoo ideas.
Yeah, bloody hell.
So, one of the questions I was going to ask you, because I don't know how much you know about this, and I wanted to pick your brain on it, right? Do you know what an athletic base is?
No.
Okay. So, athletic base is when you train as a child in any sport activity, when you get older, you develop an athletic base. So, like decent core strength, motor function skills, hand-eye coordination and stuff, whatever. You started boxing at 4, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yes. So, what, based on that then, so if you, just for an example, you could get somebody who's played cricket for all of their youth, and then when they get to like 40 years old, when they go into like a gym situation or a situation where they have to use their body, they're usually very in tune with it, so they can whip straight into it, right? So since you've been started boxing now, and I know you're still in it obviously, but have you noticed anything from your own physical progression, whether it's motor skills or hand-to-eye coordination, that's been a very obvious thing in your day-to-day life?
Not so much physically, I don't think. I can walk into any pub and have a scrap with anyone, but no, I joke. I think for me, it'd probably be more mentally than physically, because physically, I think, you know, I'm not a very sporty person, and that sounds mad because I'm a professional athlete. But some kids at school, when you're at school, they can turn their hand to any sport. They can do cricket, they can do football, they can do rugby. And for me, because I was always boxing, I was always the kid in the gym class that would be running laps around the field because I couldn't risk getting injured playing football, or couldn't risk getting injured playing rugby because I was boxing at the weekend or I was boxing for England or whatever. And, you know, I think that probably hindered me in that way. But, you know, physically developing from from boxing, I think, is probably more mental. And obviously, you do have that athletic base where it doesn't probably take you as long to get fit because of muscle memory or just that you know, that fitness level from being young. But I just think maybe just being healthy and living a good life and not drinking alcohol, not eating bad food, and
just a discipline
and being consistent and disciplined for a long time. Like maybe one thing that has, you know, been evident recently. Like I went to get a DEXA scanner at Loughborough University, and you go in the tunnel, like an MRI thing, and it tells you your body fat percentage, it tells you your bone density, it tells you, you know, your waist to hip ratio and different things like that. And, you know, one of the things that it did come up with that I had, you know, out of 30,000 people, like my bone density was like the second highest.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And for me now, the difference that I see with other people, most people float in the water. I just sink.
Really?
I'm not very good at swimming because I just sink. My bones are that dense. So yeah, and that's they've said that's probably from being so physical from being young, because it was one just like, oh, you're playing at it, you going and messing about at the gym. I was training like a full grown adult from a toddler's age really.
Yeah. That's really interesting because one of my other questions was about kind of the strength and conditioning work you do with Danny, and I know that you lift fairly heavy for your weight, don't you, as well? So that makes a lot of sense.
Pound for pound.
There we go. That makes a lot of sense because obviously as you lift weights as well, your bone density gets stronger, doesn't it? So that makes a lot of sense as to why that is as well. So
yeah, I think I started with Danny when I was about 20 years old. So
yeah,
there's a good amount of years that I've been doing weight training. Before that, I didn't really do any weight training. It was all sort of circuit and fitness and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But even that, like a lot of the circuits are, you know, lifting stuff and chucking medicine balls around, and you know, it probably does help.
Yeah. Since you started with Danny, then have you noticed anything specifically that you've developed well on more than others? So have you got like stronger legs than, is there anything like obvious that has kind of grown since you've, or strengthened since you've started with Danny that you can see?
I think with Danny's, he takes a very measured approach. So like he won't get you straight in lifting 200 kilos, because he wants to teach the movement first. And I think for me, the technique was important, so we spent a lot of time building technique before I did any big lifts really. But I think because of that, it sort of makes you a well-rounded athlete, and you know, that's his main approach, is to make people into well-rounded athletes. So I don't think it's one specific thing that has developed more than others. I think my legs have got stronger, but I think my arms have got stronger. I think my core's got stronger. I think, you know, everything is developed because of him, and you know, he's made me into a world-class athlete. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've noticed is, before I went to him, I first went to him, I said, I want to be super fit. I want to be able to be in a fight and just burst and not get tired. Because before I went, I was used to have a big moment in a fight or in sparring, and I'd need like a round to recover because, you know, that fitness, I didn't have that fitness. And then, you know, since working with him, we've done a lot of different, you know, training phases. We've done a lot of lactic acid work, how your body deals with it and how to use it as fuel, and how your body, you know, shuttles it out. And you know, that for me has been the biggest thing, because, you know, when I'm super fit now, when I've had a good amount of training, a good training block, and I've done, you know, the 30-second sprints phase and, you know, longer cardiovascular based phases, I do feel like I can just go and go and go. I do feel super fit, and I could just, you know, run or fight and wrestle, and I don't get tired. So I think for me, that's the biggest key, because it's the wrong place to get tired in a boxing ring. You don't want to be in a boxing ring and you got a big guy in front of you trying to take your head off, and you think, oh, I'm a bit tired. It's not good.
No, it's definitely not good. No. That's good. So there's nothing been obvious that you think, oh, that's really strong for me normally, or anything like that.
I think more fitness. Though. Yeah, I feel like everything's got stronger, but nothing specifically apart from probably me having that fitness.
That's really good, because most people, when, I mean, not to a sport level, but most people, when they do some form of like kind of fitness stuff, there's always something that flies up more than others. So if you're ever to look at it on like a chart, for example, like chest strength might fly up more than like leg strength, which is quite common in most lads, as you can probably guess why. But
everyone wants to skip leg day.
they do.
The thing is as well, like a lot of people, especially if they're training for sport, they're naturally going to develop differently anyway, because say they're training for sprints, their legs are going to develop more than their upper body, or say they're training for shot put. Well, actually no, that's legs as well, but think of a sport that only uses upper body. I mean,
oh god, I can't think now.
Rowing, possibly.
Yeah. Oh, and that's legs as well.
Yeah, true.
Disability basketball.
I mean, different sports in general use certain areas of your body more, whereas boxing, a lot of people think it's all upper body, but it's not. It is mainly lower body, but obviously you have to have an equal upper body. So I think maybe swimming is probably the only equivalent one where you're using your whole body just as much as boxing.
Do you go swimming?
No, I sink.
Oh yeah, you just said literally. Lifeguard
I go
has to
sinking.
jump in every 2 seconds.
I go sinking.
Do you have a favourite exercise? Everything something that you really like?
I enjoy doing strength work.
Do you?
So like big lifts, squats, or deadlifts.
Is that like on the trap bar?
Trap bar deadlifts is my favourite. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. What was that, do you think?
It's easier, isn't it? Less can go wrong.
For you?
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Surrendered. I'll put my back out. I'll just fucking look at the thing, to be
Really?
honest. I'm not good at it at all. It's weird because I'm short, so I'm 5'9", and I should be built for deadlifts because I'm shorter. So if you,
that's not short, mate.
I think it's short. What are you?
5'7", maybe.
Are you?
5'8", maybe. I don't know. Probably 5'7".
I'm
shrinking.
Are you? Oh no. I have to
good.
get you on that turntable, stretch you
looking
out a
good,
little bit. Bones are sinking, sinking the water. You can't do it though. Yeah, and then if you get taller people, they usually struggle with deadlifts because they're taller. I'm fucking awful at deadlifts and squats. So the things I should be good at physiologically, I'm fucking awful at. So
best get better then.
Well,
keep training.
Well, I keep saying that, but then I keep putting my fucking back out, so I can't get better at it. But
sack it off. It's not worth it.
No, I don't do it anymore. I'm less injury prone now. I don't do them. So there's so many things on deadlifts though, because so many people are like, a lot of old school powerlifters now are like, don't do them, and then people are like, oh no, you need to do them. So it's all opinions, isn't it? But
yeah, and I think as well is you can't tie everyone with the same brush. You can't train everyone the same because everyone has different body types, different mechanics, and different needs. And sometimes you have to look at an exercise and think risk versus reward.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that Danny's very good at. Like we went through a phase of doing a lot of overhead split jerks, and you know, for a boxer who has poor wrist mobility, because of the years of punching, and you can't bend your arms because your wrist, because your forearms are always tight and your shoulders are always tight, and like poor shoulder mobility, we sort of end up sacking it off. And although I gained a lot of strength and power from doing overhead split jerks, we just ended up doing it because of risk versus reward. There's other ways to develop that strength and power with less risk of injuring yourself. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the strength work, the fitness work is all an auxiliary, it's all an extra, an add-on to my focus, and my focus is boxing. And a lot of people in boxing, like strength coaches or nutritionists, like for everyone, their job in their field to them is the most important thing. So like if I'm a boxer and I've got a nutritionist, I've got a strength coach, I've got a boxing coach, I've got a mind coach. The mind coach thinks he's the most important person on the team. The strength coach thinks he's the most important person on the team. The nutritionist says, he's the most important person on the team. The boxer thinks he's the most important, and the boxing coach thinks he's the most important. So I think they're all necessary. Well, not all of them, but they're necessary components to make a successful athlete. But at the end of the day, the bread and butter is boxing.
How do you cope with that push and pull of having that sometimes? So if you've got to go from, I don't know, say that your energy is like quite low one day, and you're like mental energy, and you've got somebody telling you need to do this in this field, and then you've got somebody saying this is really important this week that you do this. How do you cope with that? Do you find the nice balance between it, or?
I think you just have to be honest and just say, look, I I want to do this, and I know you think it's important, but my main focus is this at the moment because of this reason. And
Sure.
you know, 9 times out of 10, boxing is the main focus, and you know that's never really been a massive issue for me because I think I was lucky to have Danny Wilson with me, and he's probably one of the only people that works in boxing strength that knows that boxing is the important thing. And you know, we could train so much harder, we could do so much more, but the program is tailored around boxing, and I think that's so important. And you know, I think he does such a good job of managing it. So for me, it's never really been an issue. But you know, sometimes you do have to pull yourself back, or sometimes you do have to do a little bit less or eat a little bit more, and tell your nutritionist because you know sometimes you need extra calories. I've burnt a few more here. I've sparred an extra 4 rounds. I'm training again later. What can I have? And if they're reasonable, which you know they are, then it's never a problem.
I suppose now because you're in a good position because you know your body now, don't you? You know what works. You've been through so many fights now. You know the process yourself of what works for you. So I suppose now you do have a bit more of an input in it, don't you? Because you know what works and stuff now as well, I suppose.
Yeah, like you said, it's trial and error with everything in life. I think, you know, you get to learn your body, and, you know, sometimes you can only kid yourself for so long. For example, I probably should have moved up weights about 3 or 4 fights ago, maybe more. Because it gets that hard and it gets that much of a struggle. But, you know, you think, oh, I'm in a good position. I'm close to a world title shot. I'll just win this fight and then we'll see. I'll just win this fight and we'll see. But bit by bit, your performance is dropping and you're kidding yourself. So I think you have to learn to listen to your body. And, you know, that's one thing that I'm still developing. But I do know the process. I do know how I feel. I do know what works for me. And it's just taken years of trial and error.
Yeah. Have you noticed a difference in energy levels? It's a £4 difference, isn't it? Is it £4?
Yeah.
So have you noticed a difference in energy with that £4?
Not really, because I've not really got to the stage where I'm, you know, cutting weight down to because I've not had a fight date. Yeah, I think I will soon, but I've not really struggled for energy at all. But we'll see as it gets closer to the weight. But it's not going to be that much different. I know £4 sounds like a lot to most people, but it's not. I'm still going to have to be down to 5% body fat. I'm still going to have to, you know, diet for 8 to 10 weeks. It's still going to be grueling and hard and disgusting sometimes. And you're going to have days where you just want to have a Mars bar.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the last day where I usually I'd cut this much weight. Now I only got to cut this much weight.
Sure.
And I think the rebound effect from that will be a lot more beneficial. So right now I can't sit here and say, oh, I feel so much better for going up a weight. I think I can only say that after I fought, because when I've cut this much weight instead of this much weight and perform the next day, only I will know how much better I feel and how much more resilience I have, how much more strength I have, how much more power I have. But I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see as well, won't it? Very, very interesting. So when you, what I wanted to delve into today as well is because I think this is what everybody can take away from. So when you are, do you remember that saying where everybody wanted Messi in the Premier League and they were like, can he do it in a rainy day in Stoke? Yeah, right. So I use that a lot, that analogy a lot, because I quite like to, if I'm giving somebody tasks to do or telling them things to do with their fitness journey or whatever, obviously the mental aspect is a massive part of it. So I always give them things to do where mentally they can do the tasks. You have to find a balance between not making it too difficult for somebody and not making it too easy. It has to be a nice middle ground. And the majority of people in the day-to-day world obviously have full-time jobs, kids, whatever. And we don't want them to be excuses, but they are. And we have to deal with the reality of what we've got in front of them. So if I'm telling somebody that they need to get an extra few calories in or an extra less few calories, and it's difficult and it's a cold, rainy day on a Wednesday, and you're mentally not there, how can they do it? And giving them things to do to be able to make them do it. So when you feel like that at a top level of a sport, when it's a cold day, you're really not feeling it. Mentally, you're not in the room. You've got a very hard session ahead of you and then this, and this. How do you, or is there any strategies or cues that you use personally to get yourself through that, through the sessions or through that day? If there's anything specific.
It's a good question.
You can say coffee then, won't you?
Coffee helps. Yeah. When you're on low calories and you're training twice a day and people are trying to punch your head in all the time. coffee's a big help. But you know, sometimes I just think back to my childhood and hear my dad's voice in my ear saying, "Get on with it," you and it's not the most PC thing in the world, but sometimes cues like that help. And I think at the end of the day, what you're gonna do is stop, just not go. It's not in me to just not go to the gym because it's a lifestyle. It's what I've chose to do. So there's a continuum of motivation and commitment, and sometimes commitment, sometimes motivation is low and it varies. So all the time your motivation is like, some days you don't feel like getting out of bed, you've had a bad day, you had an argument with the missus, you know, not stuck to your diet and you feel guilty, or your favourite TV program's been cancelled. So the motivation is always going to be, even if you look at someone like Usain Bolt or Messi on Instagram, you think, bloody hell, he's got it good. He's on 200 grand a week and he's driving a Ferrari. He's got a supermodel wife, and I don't know if he has, but if I was Messi, I would.
I saw it. They did he plays for Inter Milan now, Inter Miami, in America, and his missus is definitely a rocket. So
well, congratulations to him. But
I'll be sure to let him know.
From an outsider looking in, we might think his life looks perfect, everything's great, but he's always gonna have bad days. Like no matter what, you're gonna have days where you think, oh, I just can't be arsed, or it's more hassle than it's worth, or I don't feel like it, and that's okay. It's okay to feel like that, but just keep turning up, because motivation goes up and down all the time. It's a continuum, but you got to keep the commitment, because consistency over time. Just keep turning up, and that's all I do. It's all I've ever done. Probably over the last year, especially, is probably had most days where I've not wanted to go, and I've just gone, because that's what I do. Yeah, I just keep turning up, and like the annoying kid at school, it just keeps turning up, keeps getting on with it, and sooner or later I'm gonna get what I deserve out of the sport, and that's the way you have to look at it. So when motivation drops, just keep turning up, because you're gonna get more out of turning up and not being in the mood than staying at home and being in the mood anyway. So, and half the time when you don't feel like it, you turn up to the gym and you have your best sessions. Yeah. Because it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's all in your head, isn't it, I suppose? And I suppose that's where those quotes come in, because then you can remember what you've been told.
Get on with it, you
Yeah. Yeah, if it worked.
We'll edit that one out.
No, we'll keep it in. But yeah, no, it's that's interesting, because the simplest things to actually change that day around are the best things. Do you know what I mean? Like quotes like that, simple things like that, just cue in your brain. Oh, it brings you down a level of like, come on, just need to do it. Just take one step at a time. And I think that's interesting for people to hear, because they can take a lot from that as well. It's not rocket science, is it? No. It's simple stuff, very simple. And I think if you've got a goal as well, you've got a vision of where you want to get to, that's a lot easier of not having a goal. I'm really big on goal setting. So I have a little thing with my clients where we do it like week by week. So adding like little pebbles to the end of the river, and eventually at the end of the river kind of thing as a goal, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the similar thing. If you're a bit overwhelmed by that big look at the end of the river journey, then just putting a little step in place of like, all I'm going to do today is just put my trainers on, and then I'm just going to walk around the block. And then, like you said, because you are actually moving and exercising, it's like, well, now I feel like I can go to the gym. Then you just go to the gym. Yeah. So if you'd said, I'm going to go to the gym, the overwhelm will be like, I've got to get my clothes on, I've got to get in the car, I've got to do this, I've got to do that.
People are going to look at me, what are they going to think? Yeah. Do I have to talk to people?
Yeah. And I think with this current day of social media, we've made that a factor. It doesn't matter how strong we are, there's always that form of anxiety, isn't there? But yeah, it's interesting to hear, really. But how are you with goal setting? Do you do any goal setting? Or not really?
I don't never sort of write things down. I have targets in my head that I'd like to hit, and I think in boxing, it's the targets are simple, and it's just a rinse and repeat every fight, because you know what weight you need to be at certain time out of the fight. 4 weeks before the fight, you need to be only this much over your weight. You know that you should be fit enough to be sparring this amount of rounds. You know that you should be lifting this weight, and that's through trial and error, like over time. And obviously, you always strive to get better.
Yeah.
You always strive to think, I'm gonna beat that target. I'm gonna hit a PB on this lift. I'm gonna hit a PB on this run, and I'm gonna spar better than I've ever sparred before. But always goal set mentally, or know roughly where I should be at, and if I'm behind, which I have been, then I try and make it up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's important, I think, not to get too head up with things and too obsessed, because if you're goal set and you're only a little bit away from your goal, a lot of people do their heads in and they self-destruct.
Yeah.
And sometimes progress comes the same as the motivation. Sometimes progress is up massively, exponentially, and sometimes it's a little bit slower. And I think you have to understand that no one gets better vertically. People get better, plateau, get better, plateau. And sometimes it's dealing with the plateaus is harder than anything, because you put in the graph, you should be working. It's like sometimes you'll have a week where your weight stagnates and you dieting so hard, and most people will cut the calories even more. But I think that's the most important time, just to keep doing what you're doing. You might be holding a little bit more water, you might have had a little bit more salt, you might not have done as much cardio and stuff like that, so you're holding a little bit more water. So I think it's important not to get too hard with the goal setting, and it's important to have the goals, but you have to be kind to yourself and not overdo it.
Yeah. So like if you need a break, then you have a break, kind of thing. And if yeah. How important is breaks for you? So what do you, I mean, not to delve into the mental health stuff too much, because we don't want to bring a dampener on it, but with obviously mental health, every human being suffers from it, and people that don't think that is lying really, and it's not the case. But with if you think that you need like a break and you need to kind of have a rest or just take yourself away, what recenters you? So is there anything that like you go and do when you're away, or do you come home, or things that you do to just recenter it, regenerate it, and then ready to go again? Is there any like strategies that you use, or anything specific for you?
I think for me it's difficult because I have to be so consistent with the training. I have to be so on it, and I have been for 10 years since I've been professional. 11 now.
11 years?
11 years.
That's gone quick.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So old. And you have to microdose the breaks. So like when most people think, I need a break, I'm going to have a week off work. That's fine for them. But I can't have a week off because I could get caught. Oh, you're fighting in 4 weeks. You're fighting a Mexican killer. He's going to try and kill you. And if you've had a week off, then it'll set you back so far. Yeah. So I think for me, I've had to microdose the breaks, and that might be going to the cinema in the evening by myself. I'll just sit there, watch a film, chill, maybe treat myself to a Coke Zero for 1 calorie. And, it's a little bit of a mental switch off. And I think it's important to set, I'm lucky in the way that I've been able to be a full-time athlete. So once my training's done, obviously you do your film study, you thinking about the fights and thinking about how I can improve, and watching boxing to develop your understanding. But there's still time around that where you can switch off, and I think that's important. I think like things like just cooking. I'll just sit in the kitchen and cook, and I don't think about anything when I'm doing that. I'm just cooking and having a good time, listen to music, go to the cinema. And like I've been lucky in the way that I've taken myself out of my I left home at 17 to turn professional, and I moved to Sheffield. And for me, coming home at weekends, like some weekends I'd come home, and that's like a mini break as well, because you're not like, I might fit in 1 session, but it's all at my own pace. And what obviously I've been set things to do on a program, but you can go whatever time you want. You haven't got your slot. It's not as bad, but yeah, I think maybe I've microdosed the breaks. Instead of having a week off, I've come home for the weekend, seen the family, switched off, had some food, I cook, I go to cinema. Little things like that. He's making time in a day to break it up and, you know, not get overwhelmed or bogged down with, you know, the seriousness of the business, which is hard to do.
I suppose it's a good thing to take away for people as well, because obviously most people are quite busy as well. Obviously not pro athletes, but they're busy. And I think just them hearing that you can microdose it by just having like a cup of tea at work or something, or going for a walk on your break or something is important as well, which is interesting.
Go in the work loos and just sit in a cubicle by yourself for 20 minutes. Spark one up.
Yeah, light it up. Start crying. Do you see like a notable difference after you've done like some microdose and stuff with that? Do you find like a lot of a weight's been lifted when you do that, compared to like if you have a week off? Or I know you don't often, but
yeah, I think for me, because I've had to be so strict for so long, if I had a whole week off, I feel the opposite. I feel more stressed about having to get back into shape, because you know, when I'm was one of them characters where I'm all or nothing, and I can't have a week off without putting a stone on, and it's just it's not healthy. But you know, it's the way it is. We're in a weight control sport, and you know, this is what it's come to, James.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel more probably frustrated or stressed about coming back after a week or two off than if I microdose it. So when I was training consistently up in Sheffield, when I come home for the weekend, Monday I did feel fresh. I did feel good. So yeah, I think it did really help. Did
you have every weekend off then? Just like a Monday to Friday thing, unless there's a fight coming?
Say that again.
Did you have like weekends off for training?
I train Monday to Friday boxing. Have Saturday and Sunday off boxing, but maybe do like a run or something, or weights over the weekend.
Yeah, just still on, but like not like full on day.
Just one session. Yeah.
Oh, that's good then. Oh, that's good. So we're the same age. We're the same. Are you 30 this year or next year?
Next year.
I
just turned 29.
What? When?
July.
Was it? Oh, we're quite close together. I was born in June. Yeah. So you're 94 baby, aren't you? Yeah. So we're coming towards the end of our 20s now. Learned a lot in our 20s. Getting old men now. And how we had our upbringing from being a child to how the kids do now is completely different. And every single time I speak to people that are a lot older than us, they do think, oh, there's not that much difference between you. But in terms of the experience, it's so much different. Obviously, we work for the foundation, your foundation, to help kids that are not privileged and help them get into sport and exercise and communicate, right? Have you, or do you think that by the time these kids that are around like probably 10 to 12, 16, whatever now, when they get to our age, what sort of community do you think they'll be like? Do you think that they will be a specific thing, or what do you think about that?
All we can do is hope. Say a prayer for the kids now. I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? Like, no one's got a crystal ball. No one can predict the future. But like you said, it is very different. There's more, you know, technology. There's more influence from social media. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like, when I've gone into the schools with next gen, you know, is a big thing that I've noticed. You know, they're a lot more self-conscious, whereas we just say stuff and do stuff and be idiots and not think anything of it. You know, they're a lot different in that sense, where, you know, they're scared of what people are thinking of them. I think, you know, the world has changed in that way. And I don't think it's for the better either. I think it's, you know, I don't think it's good, but I can't see it changing either. So, you know, I think maybe when they're our age, I mean, maybe they'll be communicating differently. Maybe they'll have AI and just be sort of sending thoughts to each other subconsciously, but through machinery. I don't know. Who knows?
Probably. Well, if you even think about 10 years, like 10 years ago, we didn't have TikTok, and that's 10 years is nothing really, is it? Like, no. So I think even that kind of streaming life of the quick dopamine hits, that's only really been, 5 years? Not even that. So just a complete shift in mentality in 5 years is insane. Do you think that because I've got mixed views on this, because I don't know about you, but we probably had access to like proper social media when we were like late teens, early 20s probably.
Yeah.
So I think I've got different views on this. Do you think that the kids are exposed to too much information, or do you think it's going to be the right amount of information if it's put in the right thing? So, for example, me being in the job I'm in, I've learned a lot of things through social media, through YouTube, for other people learning what you do with the box and I do with fitness stuff. So like, I'll always watch videos and podcasts on different types of trainers and all sorts of stuff. So for me, it's made me a better person in terms of my career and my knowledge. On the flip side of that, it's made my attention span very shit, because obviously things are quick things. So if that's an example, what do you think that will be like for them? Or what do you think it currently is at the moment? Do you think it's too much info? Do you think it's just about the right if it's channeled well?
I don't think you can ever have too much information. I think, obviously, you can never have too much data. But I think maybe because it's all new, all the technology's new, these things, TikTok's developing faster than people can learn about it. And, we're at the age where teachers now are and having these kids come in and saying, oh, I watch this. And like, how are they gonna, like I said, I don't think there's too much information. But I think that the kids need to be taught how to process information.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no education about that, because, kids will process one bit of information and think that's because they've seen it on TikTok, it's 100% true, whereas it could be absolute bollocks, and most of it actually is. So I think that's an issue. I think I've had to, like, you have to learn to deal with social media and have to learn to deal with, what you see online. And there's no sort of class for that at the moment. There's no education around it. There's no support for the teachers to teach the pupils about that, or parents to kids, probably more importantly, because in school they'll watch a bit, but it's at home when they're watching all, all the TikToks or logging into Pornhub or whatever. It is what it is. So I think there needs to be education about that, and understanding how to process it, understanding what's real, what's not real, and what's okay to what you can take from these influencers, because a lot of things that they say and do, you'd be disgusted if your child did that, or even a friend did that. So yeah, I think that's a big deal. It's a big problem, I think, at the moment. I think I've learned to look at social media, and I don't use it so much. I feel like if I didn't box and I didn't have to put myself out there, have to be in the public eye and have a profile, I probably wouldn't ever have it. I'm not actually bothered about it. I don't post anything really personal, and I get stick even like everyone says I'm one of the nicest people in boxing, and I like to think I am, but I try not to. I try to treat everyone equally and be nice to everyone and be everyone's friend. And for me, I think if I'm getting stick, then for what I've done, then how can anyone ever win? So I think what that teaches you is you have to deal with everything the same way. So I'll put something on social media, I might have 50 people saying, oh, that's great, you're amazing. I have maybe 20 people saying, oh, I hate your guts, I hope you die in a car crash and your mum's a whore. And I look at every comment, because you acknowledge you're never not gonna look, and I treat everyone exactly the same. The one that says I love you, you're my idol, I treat exactly the same mentally as the ones that say your mum's a whore and I hope you die in a car crash. I acknowledge it, I accept it, and I just move on, because for me it's not significant. I think in life, probably have maybe 5 people who you look at and think, I love them, I really value their opinion, and as long as you're pleasing those 5 people, so you're not going to please everyone all the time. I upset my dad all the time, but you're if you can please them 5 people and I think that's what's to look at. You don't have to post on Instagram or TikTok to please somebody you've never met, or try and be fancy for someone to say, "Oh, that's great," because you're looking for that validation, and if they give it to you or not, what does it matter?
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's important for, especially if anybody's that age listening to this, because you are never going to get the validation online that you want. And it's, I think because of the way that we live now with like quick fix culture, so isn't it? So like you can get any food you want now, you can get anything we want to instantly. We know this, it's nothing new. That dopamine response in your brain is constantly getting depleted.
Yeah.
Whereas when we were kids, it would have just been going out to play or talking to your friends. That would be a normal, on a human level, what we're designed for evolution to be, a normal dopamine release when we do things we enjoy to do, and it's normal when we're outside and we're getting the benefits of the weather. That does it, like all the cold exposure and shit. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
But then when you could go through 1,000 topics of things in probably 10 minutes, couldn't you, on TikTok or Instagram Reels or something? Yeah. And then people are only really posting, not everybody obviously, that's generalising, but I think the majority of people are posting to get validation.
Yeah.
Look at me. What does a like mean? Somebody likes it. It's designed to get your dopamine response up. Oh my God, somebody likes it. Oh my gosh, somebody shared something. Oh, someone's commented. And your brain is just so confused because it's not designed for this. And I think if any kids are watching this, to try to find that dopamine response through activity, through talking to people older than you, try not to do it through what you're conditioned to now, because
I think for me that's so important. I think you have to, like, for me, when I was growing up, I used to go to school, sometimes I train before school, I'd go to school, come back, do whatever homework I need to go, and I'd be in the gym. I'd go to the boxing club, I'd be with the older lads. They'd all try and beat me up, and well, they did beat me up, and like you'd have a bit of banter, you know, have a wrestle, and it'd just be it. And you go home, you go sleep. Whereas a lot of my friends, from going to school instead of going to the club, a lot of them play football, but only twice a week or whatever. They weren't every day. Or if the ones that didn't, they'd be going on and they'd be playing PlayStation and be talking to people online, or the ones that didn't would be going and sitting on MSN, or, which is or Bebo. You kids don't know about that now.
But need to get to know about Bebo. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Did you have your other half as a mate or a girlfriend?
Can't remember.
I wasn't very good with the girls at school, so I used to have my mates. It's a bit weird, but
yeah. I was in my prime at school. I had loads of girlfriends. No, I didn't really. No, I just think that for me, the getting into sport and being into a club or a sporting environment, especially with the old kids, like you develop quickly, you learn the communication skills that you need to get by in life, and think kids now, they need to find something to give them that, you know, physical element and that you know, discipline, validation, physically, mentally, you know, have a little bit more of a team spirit maybe, or, you know, a bit of self-worth and value for himself to get up and do something. And you know, sitting around on TikTok or Instagram is always going to be, you know,
problem's too easy to do it. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got some facts for you in a minute. Oh, you'd be interesting to see, because it is linked with the foundation as well. It's good. So when we did our recent thing with the HAF project, obviously me and your dad were doing some stuff with that, and we noticed very quickly, and I haven't seen it for a very long time, or if ever really, I hadn't really looked at it this way, but when you did a club when you were a child and you're a little bit nervous, a bit anxious, it's normal, isn't it, to feel that way? You kind of just had to do it. You didn't really have any safety thing to kind of go to. You could just go to the toilet and hide if you wanted to, or cling to your mum or whatever. But normally you just had to get on with it. So if you had to walk into a room, which is what we did the other week, walk into a room and you've got all these kids here and you're a bit nervous, very normal, we just kind of had to get on with it. But we found that because of the phones, they had a safety blanket in their hand. So whenever like your dad was getting them to do Bulldog, like classic game, innit? Some of the ones that didn't want to join in because they're intimidated could go onto the seat and just go on their phones. It was a quick response. It was like a safety
avoid
blanket.
eye contact.
Literally, like honestly. And we noticed it with a couple of kids. So we targeted them to show them that it's okay to join in. And once we did, they were fine. But it really became apparent to me that there's a safety blanket. And I think if we can remove that safety blanket and let them know that they are still safe in that environment, that's what's going to make a big difference when they're older and our age, I think. And I think parents are doing as much as they can. I really do. I just think a lot of parents have told me that they don't want them on the stuff, but they can't take it away from them because they're almost neglecting the kids because they'll get bullied at school for not being on it. It's like if you had Nike trainers as a kid or something, and then you and that friend that didn't because you couldn't afford it, you were almost neglected for not having it, and you weren't part of the group.
I was in a Kappa.
Was you?
The
Did you have
Adora.
a full Kappa tracksuit?
Full Umbro tracksuit.
Very nearly, I nearly bought a Kappa tracksuit about 4 years ago, and I'm so glad I didn't. Had curtains as well, which went great. So these facts, right? So it's good to know, actually. I thought it was a lot worse than this. So I did write it down because I like this. This is from Sport England, right? 47.2% of kids participated in the standard of what Sport England wanted for 60 minutes of exercise last year, so 21 to 22. It's a weird fact because it looks like it's under half of it, but then there was, I think, 30 odd or something was 40 minutes and another one was under 30 minutes. So it's pretty good for activity.
Per week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 times a week, 60 minutes of exercise.
Right.
2% rise in boys doing it, and girls have stayed the same at 45%. So in terms of actual facts, they're a lot better than what I thought they were, because I didn't think that kids were doing any exercise. But if you actually look at all the data, I've sent it to your mum and your dad, all the data shows that they are actually participating, which is really good. And it's gone up a lot since COVID, obviously, because they couldn't. Yeah. So I think that's promising. I think it is on the way up for activity. So you're giving them the correct outlet to exercise, to move about, and to give them that mental benefit is to do what we're meant to do as humans. But we still have an issue with the kind of social media world. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very good. It's good that the numbers are going up.
Yeah.
Statistics.
Love a good stat, I do. Yeah, I love a good stat. I did have it in the top of my head, but I forgot now what it was. But there's another one that's a really good one, but I can't remember what it is now.
You should be more prepared, mate.
I know, that's right. If you could, when you eventually finish boxing, right, what do you think your fitness goals would be?
I think that I want to... I think I'll be heavily focused on strength. I don't know how much boxing I'll do. Obviously, you like to think that once you've been a professional athlete, you'd always do a bit of the boxing side of it. You'd always hit the bag, or like you don't have to go sparring and stuff because obviously you're losing brain cells every time. But I like to think that I'd do a bit of boxing, but I'm not actually sure. I think I'll definitely always keep a base level of fitness and strength from doing some sort of maybe an air bike session or maybe a run, maybe once or twice a week, and then probably weight training three or 4 times a week, just to keep strong, keep in shape, and keep healthy and be able to move. And I don't want the aches and pains when you're getting up and down off the sofa. I want to be able to go up and down the stairs and be happy and healthy, well into old age.
Is there anything that you really want to try, like any form of fitness stuff you want to try, like CrossFit, triathlons, anything specific like that, or anything? Or
not really. I wouldn't mind trying CrossFit, but I think for me, it'd be a big change because a lot of the things that we've been working on are all like compound lifts, which they do in CrossFit, but it's not like max weight.
Like sped up.
It's more of like reps of like a medium sort of weight for reps, and that's probably very good for fitness. So I might try it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not into that. I don't know any of that stuff.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, you probably train like how your dad does, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, he does similar thing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Last question, and we're done.
Go on.
Do you enjoy the journey?
Yeah, I think if you have to, don't you? Because
yeah, what's the alternative?
Yeah, what? Well, you're just gonna stop, just sit down forever.
Yeah. Or I'll rephrase it. Right? Have you enjoyed the journey so far? If you think of it that way.
I could give you 100 examples of me sitting here crying and thinking it's not worth it. I hate it. It's awful. It's shit. my life's awful, blah blah. But then at the same time, I could probably give you the same amount of times where I've felt elated and felt great and really positive. And so I think it's important to understand that it's never going to be smooth sailing. I've had so many ups and downs in my career, and I don't know if I'd change it or not, because I could have had a lot smoother ride and probably been further along than I am now. But at the same time, I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of people. I've made a lot of friends. I've travelled the world. I've been to countries and places I never thought I'd go. How often do kids from Chatteris get to go to Japan, Monaco, Dubai, Vegas, Chicago, LA, Portugal? Yeah, literally everywhere I've been. And you just think, I've travelled the world. I've not really had to work. I've kept myself fit and healthy. I've won big titles. I've made a living doing something that I loved doing as a child. And, I've had my family involved. My dad's in my corner. And been able to take him, partly on that journey and, share that with him. I don't think I'd change it. I think looking back, there's so many positives. There's always going to be negatives no matter what you do. So I've enjoyed the journey. To answer your question, I've enjoyed it. Good. But it's not over yet, and the good times are coming. So
Exactly. We're only getting started. Last thing, if anybody's listening to this now that has a goal they want to do, doesn't matter what it is, whether it is a big thing or a small thing, what do you think the first step for them to do is today?
Get on with it, you can. I'm joking. Put one foot in front of the other. Don't think too far ahead. Just get your trainers on, go for a walk, make your mind up, commit to something. He who dares wins. Just get up and do it. Just whatever you are, if you dare, you win. Go and do it.
There we go. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. It's undone. Thank you for watching the video. If you'd like to see more videos and content like this, then subscribe to all of my social media platforms at Nixons Training and Health. If you would like me to cover any specific topics related to health and fitness, then pop me an email or comment below on the video and I'll cover it as best as I can.